This is the Louie T Network.
In the lab room.
Welcome, you are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Today is Thursday, and there's Thursday night football, week 3, Chiefs at Philadelphia. Andy Reid going back to Philadelphia for the first time since he was fired from the Eagles franchise. Going to be a lot of emotions in this football game. Reid is going to want this one bad. Eagles are going to want to beat him very badly. Should be a lot of fun, but that news and that football game kind of takes a backseat to the big news of Wednesday night, that being the trade of Trent Richardson from Cleveland to the Indianapolis Colts in exchange for a 2014 first round selection. I talked about this ad nauseum on the Pro Football Central weekly Thursday episode, and so I won't dive into it too deep, but this trade has so many underlying themes in it and so many different meanings and messages that you got to be able to look deeper into this trade other than what you see at face value. One player leaving a team and going to the next for a first round selection. You need to be able to probe a little bit deeper and read between the lines as to what this trade means. I break it down very thoroughly on that program, so if you're looking for a breakdown of that trade and what it all means and why it occurred and what it means for the Browns and what it means for the Indianapolis Colts, Pro Football Central Weekly Thursday edition, week 3. Check it out. But as far as the game is concerned tonight, it's going to be a doozy. Look, you're talking about a high-flying, fast-paced, Chip Kelly Express offense in the Philadelphia Eagles versus a ball control, very conservative, but very, very efficient offensive and defensive attack in Kansas City, led by Andy Reid and Alex Smith. And so I expect this game to fall somewhere in between those two teams and their styles of play. Look, this game isn't going to be up-tempo, up-pace for 4 quarters. This game isn't going to be a slugfest, a grinded-out type of game for 4 quarters either. It's going to get off to a fast start, most likely. And as the Chiefs are able to impose their will onto the Eagles somewhat, I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs will slow this game down eventually. And where on the Eagles, they won't make mistakes. The Eagles are a team that need you to make mistakes defensively for them to win football games. If you can't generate turnovers in this league, you're not going to win a lot of times because you got to be able to create short fields for your team. You got to be able to take the football away and give your team some momentum. And the Eagles right now, they're not that good of a defense. I think, again, I've said this a couple of times this week, and I don't know if you've been listening or not, but the Eagles aren't that good of a defense. And I think we forgot about that after week 1 because of how bad the Redskins were on offense. And now we're starting to realize that the Redskins are just bad on offense right now. They're not a good offensive football team. And so what the Eagles did wasn't all that great of a feat. They shut down a bad offense. And so now when they played the Chargers in week 2, we were a little surprised because the Chargers went out and took it to this Philadelphia Eagles team, and we weren't expecting that. And what that said to me is that you needed to be reminded that the Eagles on defense aren't that good. They're not going to be at the level that's necessary for a team to win 10, 11 games and win a division. This team is going through a transitional phase on defense, going from a 4-3 defense to a 3-4 defense. And for me, it takes 1 year of mandatory struggle to figure out how to really get that 3-4 defense down packed to a science. A lot of times you don't have the personnel. The Eagles did a really good job of going out and getting guys that they feel fit what they want to do in their 3-4 defensive scheme. But It all comes back to the fact that you have to gel as a group, become cohesive. Everyone knows their assignments. There's no hesitation. Guys are flying to the football. Don't know if the Eagles are at that point yet, and I don't know when they'll reach that point in 2013, if they will even reach that point in 2013. And so they're going to struggle on the defensive side of the football. This offense is explosive. We know that. If Vic can stay healthy, Jackson and McCoy can all stay healthy, they're going to score points because of the nature of these guys in the offense that they're in and their abilities. This offense fits those guys perfectly to a T. Up-tempo, allowed to have chances to make plays in space where these guys are their most dangerous. They're going to score points. I don't care who the defense is. This team is going to score points. The problem is they're going to give up more points than they score on average. They're going to turn the football over. They're going to have some defensive breakdowns. And if they're not forcing turnovers on the defensive side of the football, if they're not getting stops consistently, if they're not getting help from their special teams, this Eagles football team isn't going to be as good as this offense might indicate that this team is supposed to be. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and look, I loved what this team did in the offseason. I was singing their praises all offseason long. I had some people tell me that they weren't that impressed with the Chiefs and that Alex Smith is a game manager. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with being a game manager? Hell, if you're good at what you do, be good at what you do. Don't try to be something that you're not. Alex Smith is not a risk taker. Alex Smith is not a guy that's going to go out and throw the football 42 times and 18 of those are going to be shots 20 yards down the field or further. No, Alex Smith is a guy that's going to take his time, take what the defense gives him. If it's a check down, so be it. If it's a 7-yard slant route, so be it. If it's a 12-yard dig, so be it. Whatever it is, whatever the defense is giving him, he's going to take it. He's not going to make mistakes. He's not going to give the opposing defense the satisfaction of thinking that they're going to go out and make a lot of plays in this football game and force turnovers. If you're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, it's going to be because you stopped their running game, you didn't give up a lot of points, you were sound in your defensive principles, you tackled well, and your team was able to score more points than the Kansas City Chiefs. But you're not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs because they self-destructed like they did in 2012 when Matt Castle was throwing the football all over the field and turning it over, fumbling all over the place. Jamal Charles was putting the football on the ground. This team was a train wreck last year, and it was because they could not stop turning over the football. Well, this is a different outfit in 2013. They're not turning the football over. They're taking care of the football. They're executing this offense to a T. If it's 3rd and 3, they're getting 4 yards. They're getting 6 yards. They're moving the sticks. That's what Alex Smith does. He keeps an offense on schedule. Now, is this offense going to be ahead of schedule a lot of times? No. But an on-time, on-schedule offense will win you a lot of football games. And right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing defense. They're forcing turnovers. They're not turning it over themselves. They're on schedule, on offense. They're scoring just enough points, and they're not beating themselves. You take all of those things into consideration, and that's a recipe for success in the National Football League. I expect the Kansas City Chiefs to do much of the same against the Philadelphia Eagles, not beat themselves, not turn it over. I expect them to slow down to a certain extent this Philadelphia Eagles offensive attack and win this football game 23-21. It's going to be close. It's going to be a fun game, but I do not expect the Eagles to score 30 again. I do not expect the Kansas City Chiefs to allow them to score 30. I do not expect the Kansas City Chiefs to beat themselves, which is what the Eagles will need to win this football game. I expect the Chiefs to go to 3-0 on the season by eking out a 23-21 victory on the road. This one's for Andy. And so, that's a touchdown. Go ahead, throw it up. Want to tack on this quick extra point. So I got to go back to the trade because it was such a monumental trade. It's huge. How often do we have a big blockbuster trade like this in the midst of the season in week 3? It just doesn't happen. And so this trade signifies the end of the road. And I'll just give you this tidbit. This is a tease of what I talked about on Pro Football Central Weekly on the Thursday edition. Look, this trade signifies the end of the road for Brandon Weeden in Cleveland. He's had opportunities. He hasn't taken advantage of them. And North Turner is there, and he turns everything he touches to gold in terms of quarterbacks. And he simply did not have the Midas touch with Brandon Weeden. And this might be more indicative of what Rob Chizzinski wants than what North Turner thinks he can turn Brandon Weeden into. At the end of the day, I won't go too far into it. I don't want to give too much away. You want to see what I had to say about this trade, then you need to watch Pro Football Central Weekly. But I'll say this much, and then I'll leave it alone, and I'll get out of here. Look, Weeden had his opportunities. And you got to remember, this is a new coaching staff, new whole organization. This is all brand new. New GM and Lombardi, new head coach in Chizzinski, new offensive coordinator and North Turner. Look, it's all brand new. And when everything is young, fresh, and new, you want your stuff. You want your guys in your system running it the way you want it to be ran. And I don't think Brandon Weeden can run the system the way they want it to be ran. And let's face it, Rob Chizzinski and Michael Lombardi and North Turner were not in the draft room when the decision was made to pull the trigger on Brandon Weeden in the first round. They weren't there. None of those guys were decision makers in that decision to bring him to Cleveland. And ultimately, that's what it boils down to. He's done in Cleveland. He's on borrowed time when he comes back from that injury. And next year, you'll be looking at a new signal caller in Cleveland. And so that'll do it for this edition of In the Lab Room. I thank you for joining me. And as always, if it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Enjoy the football tonight. We'll come back, break it down on Friday, along with the other 14 games on the slate on Sunday. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. While you're here, go ahead and sub up.
In the lab room.